Hey folks, and welcome along to episode 97 of the Hunger for the Hustle podcast, the podcast where we dive deep into entrepreneurs' journeys, their challenges, their failures, their wins, their successes, to give you, the listener, a better idea of what it's like to be an entrepreneur and be in that world, and hopefully inspire you and fire up your inner hunger for the hustle, and maybe make that switch from an employee to an entrepreneur. My guest today is Kyle Spyrides. I think I've got it right. I'm not sure. We'll figure it out. It's however you read it, right?
Yes,
Kyle,
exactly.
Videographer, heart health speaker, and the creator of the Decide Your Destiny movement. Decide Your Destiny is also the title of his forthcoming book, which I'm looking forward to speaking with Kyle about. Kyle is joining me from Western Australia, so not always as far away as a lot of my guests, but still actually quite far away, really. 3 hours time difference. Kyle, welcome to the show. How are you this afternoon? I nearly said this morning. In fact,
yeah, mate, I'm well.
It's still morning there. It's still morning there.
Exactly. Yeah. 9:15 in the morning. So yeah, thank you for having me on your show, and I'm doing really well, mate.
Pleased to hear it, mate. I really am. So let's dive into it, Kyle. I mean, how long have you been doing your own thing as a photographer, videographer?
So I've been doing this for about 6 years, and so mainly what I do is now I do business and branding photography for business owners, and then in the videography side, it's more sort of storytelling, so capturing like some of my videos, like the time capsule journal. So I capture elderly people's stories. That's that's one of the projects that I'm doing with the videography side of things, and that's been obviously a bit challenging over the last few years, because I launched it right around 2020. So but that's okay. Like the heart and soul of the purpose of capturing elderly people's stories is still there. I mean, it started off with my grandparents and capturing their story, so that's what I do there. But then with the photography, I do I got into it for portraits and really capturing the essence and the soul of the person, and sitting with them for a while and chatting with them and diving deeper, and then eventually they kind of reveal their essence, and and that kind of eventually went into a whole range of different photography, and then I kind of decided to choose my lane of branding and business photography.
Great, nice. I've got to ask, mate, while we're there, what is your grandparents' story? Because of course everyone that generation has a great story of how they came to Australia and what they did when they got here.
Yeah. So, my grandparents' story is, my grandmother grew up in a country town like Cobar. So it's quite a few hours in the middle of middle of New South Wales, and they'd get dust storms and that sort of thing. And she grew up, and her dad was a postman, but he worked primarily at the post office. And everyone in that town would come to him with their issues, and eventually he ran for mayor, and he became mayor of the town. Yeah, and then he was mayor for about 10 years, and he was going all the way up. He was going to go into Parliament, and his friend was the leader of this he owned this newspaper company, and he was actually also going for Parliament. And he met up with my grandmother told me the story a little while ago, and she said he met up with this guy because he was friends, but he was kind of, in the opposition party going in for Parliament. And the guy said to him, look, I'm going to have to kind of trash you in my newspaper because I need, you're too popular, you're way too popular with the people. And I need the votes, from all these areas so I can get into Parliament. And so I asked wow, okay. So I guess they weren't friends anymore. And my grandmother said, no, he just licked his wounds and went on with it and just said, look, that's who that man is. That's not me. That's not for me. I'll continue being mayor of my town. So that's where my grandmother came from. And she, she's been a counsellor her whole life. She's 89. She still has people who she's counselled years and years ago come up to her and say, listen, you helped out my husband 30 years earlier. You did an amazing job. Can you help me out? So she's still giving value I guess as we talk about entrepreneurs, she's still finding ways to give value to in this day, and so she's still helping people out. I mean, that's the main point of it. And yeah, my grandfather, he I guess he was a bit of a wild child, and he definitely needed my grandmother, needed someone to stabilize him a bit. And he was not, how do I say, he was not prepared for a school life. He indoctrination was not his mode of being, and he couldn't wait to get out of school. And he became an architect, and he built his own house in Cronulla, and it was the second house in that street, and there was no sewage line to that area. So the whole family thought he was crazy. What do you think you're doing? How are you going to survive? What are you going to do? But he just had this vision of designing his house. And yeah, so that's my grandparents' story. And an interesting fact is I'm not related to them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was born in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Okay.
And yeah, and my mother was traveling around the world. She was an international model, and she met a man in Sydney, Australia. And they got married. Like, that man said, you got to bring your boy over, because Johannesburg's pretty wild, especially around that time. And Australia's pretty safe comparatively. So bring him over here. He's going to have a better life. So I came over, and I walked into my grandparents' house. The grandparents I've been speaking about, my Australian grandparents. And my grandmother said she could see me walking up the stairs, and she looked like she saw in my eyes. I had this lost look in my eyes, and I was looking around like, who are these weird Australians? This isn't my South African family. What's going on here? She said I had this look of terror, and she said she had this overwhelming feeling, and she can still see that boy today. She talks about this at 89. She said she had this overwhelming feeling that she was going to be important in my life, kind of like this message from God. So actually, I ended up living with them and moving in with them at the age of 14, and they pretty much became my parents, to be honest. Like, they were my stable parents for my life.
Oh, that's a really cool story. I'm glad I asked.
Yeah.
And then you rolled up from there to just you captured their story, and you, like you said, in this kind of time capsule thing, you've managed to capture all the people's stories as well, which is a wonderful thing to do. A nice, quite niche thing as well, really, inside video. You do it with videos or photos, or a mixture of the two?
So I do a mixture of the two, but mainly with the video. So I'm trying to extrapolate their history and their story, and what their family has collated over the years, and create like a small little journal, that like a time capsule keepsake that they can have forever. And that's really a passion project, like at the moment. And yeah, it's special when you have special grandparents and with their special stories. I mean, that was the thing. I had people that I lived with that had 178 years of life experience, at that time when I was 18. So I would go into their room day and night and just ask them questions and pull things apart. And as I was going through struggles and challenges and making mistakes in my youth, they were always there for me, there to listen. And a lot of the principles and values I have in my life now came from them.
Yeah, nice. So, I mean, I think it's also a thing of, like, when people are older, they often have maybe some video, depending on how old they are, but certainly a lot of photos around, but they're all in different places. And to put them in one place where, and then to put that on something that's viewable whenever they want to access it, is something that's really, really nice. I actually think that would be a really nice gift as well for someone. It'd be a kind of a hard thing to put together without them figuring it out, but of course, it would be possible.
Exactly. And I mean, like, a lot of what I do as well, like, I put out blogs and I'm trying to inform people of how they can do it themselves, like across the world, because I just think it's a good thing to think about, trying to collate and how can you do it. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I got into the photography. So when I first started, I was taking photographs of my family in my house, and that included my grandparents. And they're not used to photos like we are. So, my grandfather would go, "Oh God, Kyle, another photo. Haven't you taken enough?" And so I was working with some tough models straight off the bat.
Yeah, that's a good place to get started. Definitely.
Yeah.
And I know you you said you touched on there, you put up blogs about helping with people with photography, but as well as that, you do something called Spyrides Daily Doses, awareness of Kyle's Spyride Daily Doses. Tell us more about what that involves.
Yeah, so I mean, so they're the Decide Your Destiny Daily Dose. Like for me, my grandfather, because they were so important to me, my grandparents. My grandmother was obviously the talker and the counselor, and said many of the words. But my grandfather was more the stoic man who, whatever words he said, you kind of held on to. And the title of the book and the title of like the movement came about from him. So I was sitting on the couch one day, and just in his house, and he's got these lovely big windows, and the sun was coming through the window, pouring onto his face, and he just turned to me and just said, "Decide your destiny." And I just said, "What?" Because I was 18-year-old, so I was like, I didn't really know what was going on. And he said, "Decide your destiny." I said, "What do you mean, Clive? What are you saying?" He said, "Make sure in your life, whatever you do, that you decide your destiny." And I'd love to say that it was that moment that I got on my got on my journey, but I think that messaging that he gave me multiple times started ringing through as I did decide my destiny, whether it was with my heart, whether it was with like the health challenges or career, or moving to different places in the world, or different things like now with the book Decide Your Destiny. So all those things came from that really important bit of wisdom that he shared with me. Simple but effective. Yeah.
And I know you talk about heart health. Where did that sort of start coming from? Because it's quite I mean, a lot of people do a lot of speaking about a lot of subjects, but you've kind of chosen to talk about heart health there, which is pretty different, I would say. Was there a particular event that kind of kicked that off for you, or something that happened?
Yeah, I mean, the more that I talk and I have speaking engagements here and there, and get out there, and was finding my message and what I was talking about, heart health came into it a lot. And I mean, look, the main premise of deciding your destiny, things of addressing like issues with mental illness, especially in Australia, and different sort of things. And then heart health is a huge one, because in Australia, the number one leading cause of death is cardiac arrest. And if you get into cardiac arrest, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they're talking about in Seattle, it's 62% chance that you're going to come out and you're going to survive. In Australia, it's 6% chance, just because we don't have defibrillator. 6%, because we don't have defibrillators around. We don't have, we're not aware. We don't have people educated and informed. And that's what I find, is that there's a lot of issues that are prevalent in our society, like suicide's a huge one in Australia, and heart disease, and it's not spoken about. And for me, it came from a personal experience, because about 2 months after I left school, I got quite sick and quite ill. And that, I mean, I don't know if we have time for that, but that's quite a long story. But that story, made me aware of my heart health. And I basically nearly died, at the age of 18. And I had a massive bug eating a hole into my heart. And I had to make a choice whilst I was in the hospital, what direction I was going to go. That stepfather that I spoke about, he came over from Ireland, because he was living in Ireland at the time, and he informed me on both sides. And he said, "This is the situation. If we cut it off and we cut part of your heart, then there's going to be a metal attachment to your heart. You're going to be, you're 18 years old. These are all the implications for the rest of your life. This is all the information if you want to sign the form and go over the surgery right now. Or you can try this thing called the alkaline diet and the alkaline fast, which is basically, it's a fast where you get rid of all sugars in the body, and you have a highly alkalizing diet for a set period of time, and you basically starve the bug out. So it's got no sustenance for it to survive and attack your valve. So for me at that time, at the age of 18, all I knew was rugby and biceps and the gym. I had no idea about alternative medicine or anything like that, or alternative health. I was you came from school and you kind of saw the world however you were brought up in that setting. So, but I trusted the man. I trusted Ward. I trusted my stepdad. I went, look, you've always done right by me. You always looked after me, and if you say this can work, let's give it a go. And then that started that journey, which with your heart, you're not one and done. You manage it for the rest of your life. Just the same with your mental health. Whether you see psychologists or counselors, or whatever you do, you manage that for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you certainly do. And I mean, you must have managed it and figured it out pretty well, mate, because I know you were out there running at 4 o'clock this morning. So you're still active, right? You're still doing it.
Yeah, I think that's
still living life.
Yes. So lucky enough in that situation, it was a pretty tense time, but I decided to go the alkaline diet way, which wasn't socially approved, and I learned a few things through that process. Nurses wanted to throw my vitamins in the bin, telling me what do I think so like asking me what do you think I'm doing, going against prof's wishes and those sorts of things. And so I understand from my point of view is that, okay, look, they knew how to fix me in that setting and what they wanted to do, and they were all on board, and then I was going completely against it, and so that was probably, when I look back, that was probably the first time of deciding my destiny, and I'm not advocating anything. I'm not telling anyone at home. I'm just sharing my story, is that was a risky thing to do and a risky thing to take, but I believed in it. I went for it. I didn't believe that the outcome would actually get rid of the bug, but I believed in my stepfather. And we got there and we asked the cardiologist, what size does the bug have to get to until it's no longer an issue? And he wouldn't give us the answer. We kept, come on, tell us. And lucky I had my stepfather there, and he said, just give us some numbers. He said, all right, if it gets to 0.5 centimeters, the bug's no longer an issue. And so we kept doing the juicing, the vitamins. I was visualizing, meditating. My grandmother had these old tapes of peaks and valleys and all that sort of jazz. So I remember lots of peaks and valleys. And I did that for quite a set amount of time. And then he came in 3 weeks later and he said, we're going to operate. And we said, well, hold the bus. What's the figures? What's the numbers? Give us all the information. And we looked, and we found out that it was, we asked him, and he said, look, it's actually at 0.2 centimeters. And so we cheered. We were so excited. And he walked out of there in a huff and a puff. And, long story short, I left a couple of weeks later, and I made friends with this Somalian register. This guy, me and him, like, he was registered for the cardiologist, and we were just great mates. We chatted a lot, and as I was leaving the hospital, he grabbed me on my shoulder, and I turned to him. I said, I'm going now, mate. I'll see you later. And he said, no, I'm just here to deliver a message from Prof. I said, okay. He said, look, he just wants me to let you know that, your lungs are going to be full of blood. You're going to choke to death in your sleep. You'll die in about 2 months' time. And so I was like, what? I just started crying, and I was in this wheelchair, and I just said to the person pushing me, I said, get me the hell out of here. Keep going. Like, get me out of this hospital. I was very healthy at that stage as well. So you start to feel like the hospital's prison. It served its purpose. So that was my experience. And then I had to go on and try and see, all right, I healed myself naturally here. How do I actually repair this valve? Because the valve part of it's been eaten off. And that turned into a pretty long story. And then for about a year, I was going to a new cardiologist. I had 20% chance of repairing my valve, kept going back, 50%. Then about a year later, he said, look, your heart's recovered from the trauma. That's what he believes. And that, it's going to be about 70% chance of repairing the valve. And so I called Ward. I said, what do I do? He said, what do you want to do? I said, I think it's time to have the surgery. So then I went in and I had open heart surgery. I was so focused on repairing the valve that I woke up in ICU screaming, repair or replacement, repair or replacement. And I feel sorry for all the patients in there because someone grabbed my hand and said, they repaired your valve, Kyle. And then so, I went, I just started swearing. I was like, yes, so happy, just losing my nut, Yeah.
I bet you were, mate. What a tale that was. And I can't believe that how insistent they were on wanting to operate on you. I guess they just, I guess I just didn't think that that would be the only method that worked, because it was the only method they knew had worked in the past, and that anything else was just not gonna save you, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And I think after that, I started realizing, okay, there's no surprise. Like, I went to Peru, South America at one point, and chatting with those people, and they always believe natural first. What can I do naturally? Of course, if it's, they cut their finger or whatever it is, they'll go straight to medical, depending on the issue. But they always look at natural first, see if natural can help out. If natural doesn't help out, then they go and see what else they can do. So, I mean, our civilization is the other way around, for sure. Whether it's Botox in your cheeks, from your face to your butt, or whatever it is, no judgment. But it's, I think we're fast to go under the knife. And personally, for someone who has gone under the knife a lot, I was fast to do the opposite. See what I could do before I had to go under the knife, because it is irreversible. Regardless of what your opinions are, it's once you cut and you start going in and fixing things, your car is not. Your body's not a car. It's not a motor engine. It's an organic material that once you affect one thing, it's going to affect hundreds of other things. So you have to be very aware of that.
It's a very interesting point you make. I think it's right what you say. The kind of Western world, and we tried to. It's funny you say the West. It's funny when you say the Western world, and then you talk about Australia, because it's nowhere in the West, is it?
I know, right?
Has the same kind of, same kind of community and the same kind of lifestyle and economy and such as places like the UK and America, and of course it's part of the Commonwealth. So it's so we say the Western world anyway. But it's I think a lot more people are. Yeah, I think a lot more people now are switching to more holistic, more natural therapies. You see a lot more of that going around, and really the whole scope of that, it can be anything just from mindfulness to yoga, breathing practices, meditation, like holistic therapies, Chinese medicines. It can come. There's a lot of stuff that come under that. Even down to like a lot of people use, infrared saunas now and ice baths to heal themselves in certain different ways. There's a whole plethora of stuff, and really, I think it's all that stuff kind of growing all the time, and it's certainly a big industry. And actually, funnily enough, was it the last podcast I did? I believe it might well have been. Yes, I think it was. Yeah, it was actually the last podcast I did with a friend of mine called Yuri, and he's over here in Melbourne. You actually, I know you watched that one. It was about psychedelic psychotherapy, which is funny enough because it kind of links into what we're talking about now. And there's a lot of people using psychedelics now, compared with therapy, of course, not just on their own, and with someone who can, introduce them to psychedelics and has a good depth and width of knowledge of them, whether that be, a shaman in somewhere like Peru, or whether that be, someone that you can find that's practiced in it and is knowledgeable in it here in Australia. But there's certainly a lot of people switching to it and using it. And I think you're getting a lot more kind of, I don't want to use the word celebrities, but people of notoriety, people who are in the public eye a lot more, who are using it, and influencing it and sharing their stories. And it's, it's come from something that's all a bit hocus pocus to actually people realizing it really does. And I'm not speaking from experience here, but experiences of other people that I've spoken to, and there have been many people that are close and dear to me as well that have used it, and it's just completely reset their energy. And actually, it really intrigues me, because I think about, there's always parts of us that we want to heal and need healed, and I think it would certainly be a very interesting thing to try.
Exactly. And it's the curiosity is what's leading it. And I think something definitely got messed up along the way, where in our history, whatever era you look at, where we will cut ourselves off from things, and we will judge things, and we will label things, and we will, like you said, we'll call things just hocus pocus, just because it's different. Someone could have a different opinion. Another big word now is conspiracy or hocus pocus, like whatever it is, or woo woo, or like all these words. And I've realized like people that are on both sides get called the same word. So it's like you're not even putting that one person or that one side in a box, because they're getting called the exact same words that the other side is getting called. So I think it just comes down to, keeping it simple and realizing, wow, when I was a kid, I was curious. What did that curiosity lead me to? Oh, figuring things out. Oh, I figured things out with my own body, with my physical strength, what I could do with toys and Lego, with whatever it is. Oh, why did that end? Oh, I became an adult. What do you mean? What does that mean? Oh, I listened to people tell me who I must like and who I must not like, and what I must be interested in, what I must not be interested in. And I think that's the great thing about podcasting as well, is that it's opening people up to long form discussions, and you're not having a 5-minute, segment of, you should not listen to this person, or you should listen to that person, or which kind of sounds very much like the burning of the books, So I think you got to keep that curiosity alive. And that's where I think podcasts have grown so much, because people are curious and they're going, well, I'm not finding information from, what I've been finding information from so long. I'm finding a very surface level, thing, and it's very lacking, because I'm a deep human being with a heart and a soul. I want to get underneath and go deep,
Yeah. I mean, well, that's true of most people. I wouldn't say everyone's deep. Some people aren't, but certainly, yeah. I mean, I can definitely agree with that. The podcast platform has just grown so much, particularly in the past. I mean, it's been skyrocketed by COVID, of course, in the past 12 to 18 months, because a lot more people are having a lot more time and having the time to enjoy these long tail conversations, which, I'm just really blessed that I can find people to come on the show, and that there is so many of them, because I love having these long tail conversations. I love exploring people's stories, and I love being able to have the opportunity to share those stories and draw them out of people, because I think there's a lot of value in just people's everyday stories and experiences of life. And if people are willing and open to share them, and people are willing and open to listen, then there's something to be learned, and there's definitely some value for either side of that conversation. The beautiful thing about a podcast is that you can just go out there and talk about whatever you like. There's no, I don't have any, there's no one breathing down your neck saying, oh, you've got to mention this and you've got to talk about this. And by the way, make sure you make, ad break here and ad break there. I mean, who knows, might come to that point at one time. If you manage to monetize your podcast, that's a different thing. But yeah, it's just raw, and I don't even edit my episodes. I'm just like, raw, put them out there. This is as it happened. This is as it came through, and it's just growing all the time. Obviously, not just my podcast, but the whole thing as a whole. It's just a beautiful format, and I like the fact you can have it on audio or video. I'm someone who likes to kind of do a couple of things at once, and audio for me always works. Whilst you're, no doubt, I've got a feeling, Carl, you might be the similar type of person that probably puts a podcast on while you're going for a run or exercising.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, one of the biggest things during 2020 was, family reaching out, going, "Oh, aren't you worried about this virus because of your heart and all those sorts of things?" And I flipped the switch and I went, well, it's time for me to boost my immune system as best I can, and I went, I've healed my heart once, and there was one measurement that I just couldn't get across, it's like, so there's this thing called your ejection fraction, and your ejection fraction basically measures how well your heart pumps, so how well your engine works, basically. So normal people's ejection fraction is around 55 to 65%. Mine was around 35%, and once you get 20 and under, it's pretty touch and go. Like, you can't really go on planes, so it's a bit nervous. So over the 7 years, that didn't change. So when the virus came, and I just went, I'm going to go run every morning, and I just developed this kind of crazy military Buddhist minimalist sort of way of living, and I went running every morning, juiced, meditated, and also like tried to enjoy my day, like kind of gives love back to yourself, which, is a strange thing for a man to say, like generally speaking in terms of our society, but, kind of like have moments of appreciation, and meditation really helped out with that. But I went for about, a 6-month period. I went back, and the electrosurgeon was actually shocked, because he was wanting to do another procedure to basically shock my heart. because it was in atrial fibrillation, wanting to chalk it out at atrial fibrillation. And he said, your heart now, and it's only in 5% of people that that their heart will enjoy being in atrial fibrillation post-surgery. But you're so far post-surgery, and your heart is now enjoying being in atrial fibrillation. It's getting stronger. Your ejection fraction's at 49%. And that's what blew me away. I was like, my God, like I haven't been able to change that number for 7 years, you know? And now, because I've gone to this, like probably the fittest part of my life, I did it. So I think anyone listening is that, as long as you have that will and you put that future goal and that measurement that you want to achieve, you've got a real big reason. And look, there's plenty of reasons to find. There's reasons, there's people dying from all sorts of things around the world, people that need help, people that just need a bit of a boost from a podcast, there's child trafficking. There's all sorts of things going on around the world that might boost you out of your current, I guess, slumber or apathy and boost you forward, because you go, well, I actually can impact other lives. I can impact my own life. Let me go for this. And, that's what podcasting really did for me, learning more about the world, more about issues, in different places that don't come up on my, my main sort of sources, and listening to books. I mean, that's what I did. It was podcasts and books. So when I was going for a run, just put them on. And because you're going for a run, your mind's, you get more clarity and you're able to kind of consume the information a little bit more clearer. So thank goodness for podcasts and Audible.
Yeah, I love Audible. That's fantastic. I just couldn't get through as many books as I managed to get through with Audible. Just if I were physical books, just wouldn't have the time. In fact, you've inspired me. It's nice and sunny here in Melbourne this afternoon, so I'm going to head out for a run this afternoon and put a brand new book on that I've got, and I've been looking forward to it. So.
Awesome.
Carl, I know you're. Thanks, man. I know you're pushed. I know you got an appointment coming up, but one question I do always ask everyone on this show, and I will not let you go without asking you, sir, is how do you define the word hustle, and what does it really mean to you, and what drives your hunger for it? Evidently, you have a lot of hustle about you, man. You would have to make them big changes in your life like you have.
Thanks, Jake. I guess probably hustle comes to me like you talk about the hunger. It's like that inner drive, that kind of thing that really pushes you to go from a place that you are to a place that you want to be, and with just choosing and deciding your destiny movement and writing a book and healing my heart and doing photography or whatever it has been, it's finding that drive that's going to get you there. It's finding that reason. And you need a powerful reason, because I think, as Mike Tyson says, you get punches in the ring and you get punches in life. Like, it's you're going to get things thrown at you. You're going to get challenges, and you need to find a way to get beyond that and achieve the things you want to achieve. And I mean, hustle is when you've got everything in alignment. You've got your heart, your soul, your purpose in alignment, and like your heart's singing, you're playing the music, and it's something that can really take you out of situations that aren't so great. I mean, when I was in the hospital, I had this dream of playing rugby for the South African team, the Springboks, and I didn't end up going back to rugby after my surgeries and everything, but just that idea alone, just that little flicker of hope kept me going. And I think that's what the hustle is. It's having that vision for a better future.
Yeah, what a beautiful way to define it. I think you've really hit the note there, especially when you said it can be as simple as taking you from where you are to where you want to be, and, compounding that with the ingredient of the hustle. It gets you there for sure. Get you there, mate. It got you there. I mean, what a story. Thanks so much for sharing it and giving us the time to share it. I'm going to drop your links in the comments here, of which there is quite a few for Carl. So he's very active on social. But perhaps if you just want to tell the guys who are listening on the audio call, if they want to connect with you or find out more about you, where's the best place to do that?
Yeah, certainly. So the book is coming out on carlspyrides.com. That's the website at the moment, and there's going to be links on my Instagram, Carl Spyrides, and YouTube as well. So I'm there every day on YouTube doing a daily dose, an inspirational video, so something that I've taken away from the day and convert that into some sort of inspirational message that I've got from the day. So they're probably my main platforms, where this message is being seen, and then obviously my photography website. Yeah, that's basically it.
Spyrides. I knew I was getting it wrong. I was saying Spyrides.
Don't worry about it, mate. It's all right. It's a toughie.
Before we went live as well, but you know, that's the beauty of the live show. You don't always get it right, and I think it's good. It's authentic. Carl,
Exactly,
thanks so much. When the book is out, sir, I would love to have you back on, and we can have a bit more of a deeper dive into that. Which it's out. When is it? I don't want to say. Is it the end of April? It's looking like it's going to be out. I know how these things go, though. I'm working on a book at the minute, and they do sometimes you have to push them back.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had a high hope of February 5th. You know, my grandmother shares the same birthday as me, and I was like, oh, I'll get it all sorted. And then I kind of got stuck into the editing and realized, whoa, the editing is, you know, the book oozed out of me. Like after my run, when I was going for a jog, every time it just oozed out of me. So the book oozed out of me, but the editing is the big part, and I'm getting towards the end of the editing. And so that's it's looking like end of April at this time, when it will be published. But I'll let you know, and I'll send you a copy for sure, Jake.
Fantastic, mate. Yeah, I'd love to have a copy. That'd be great. And yeah, we'll get you back on the show and talk about the book in a bit more detail. That'd be great.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Thank you for joining me, and thank you, folks, for listening or watching along on whatever platform you are watching or listening on. I really do appreciate it. If you've got some value from the show today, share it with your friends, your family, your colleagues, and your peers. They might just get some value too, and then you have given someone else some value. So that's a win-win-win for everyone. Thanks for listening, folks. Stay hungry, stay happy, stay healthy, and keep on hustling.